Elliot, if you want to just give us a quick bit of info about yourself, you're a grade A coach, you're a massive star on the internet, you're changing lives by the day, but you must have had a beginning somewhere. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into coaching, how you got into shape, how your journey from just normal dude to internet phenomenon?
It's funny, you say normal dude. I just had a conversation with a good friend of mine earlier today, and I'm still a normal dude. It's just that more people happen to know who I am. But to answer your question, I'd like you to take you back to a tiny country in Central America called Belize, and it's a country that many people have not even heard of until very recently. But both of my parents are from Belize, and
Okay.
my dad grew up on a farm there. I mean, he didn't wear shoes. This is basically how the culture was back then. He didn't wear shoes. He climbed trees to pick coconuts, and he ate mangoes. And his dad was a pig farmer. Uh, my dad swung from vines, and he swam in rivers. He literally lived like a traditional lifestyle, for pre-contemporary traditional lifestyle. My parents came to the United States. My mother's brother, who happened to be a an accomplished martial artist. He was a black belt in Northern Shaolin Kung Fu. He was an accomplished gymnast, and he was a bodybuilder, and he was just incredibly athletic. Namely, genetics has a lot to do with it, but namely because he grew up in the country climbing trees and swinging from vines, came to the United States, came to Brooklyn, and he could kick everybody's asses in most athletic events.
I'm not
So
surprised.
yeah, it was pretty cool. So he was very popular because he was so damn athletic compared to most of the kids. He grew up eating real food. So he lived with us, and I must have been about 4 years old. Would be my earliest memory of him taking me down into my parents' basement. They moved into a big house on Long Island, and he would show me how to do push-ups and sit-ups, and we had a heavy bag, and he'd show me how to punch and kick the heavy bag. All all of this impressed my young mind. At the age of 4, I literally lived with a man who could do standing backflips and chop bricks in his hands, and he was teaching me how to do this stuff. So it really molded my consciousness.
Perfect. I mean, that's the kind of upbringing I've had. Grew up rearing sheep with the family, moving gas cylinders, you're moving feed bags. None of this
Yeah.
namby-pamby stuff nowadays, the hair slick, the products, all the
Yeah.
nonsensical. That's one of the main reasons why I started my own site. Men as a gender is going downhill rapidly. Becoming
Yeah.
metrosexual. We're talking about problems rather than just dealing with them.
Yeah.
Um, so I've often wondered, because you've got such a unique outlook on life, you're just so positive, you just take action, you just get everything done. What do you think defines a man? Is there a set of virtues that we should each aim for? Is there, what do you consider the biggest problems facing men just now?
That's a good question. And the way I'd like to approach it today is to take a look at the lack of transition that we have between being boys and becoming men. There is a start, and traditionally, in traditional societies, there, there has always been a transition moment when you go from boy to man. So I've got a 2-year-old son. He's a boy, but even at that age, it's like they're like asexual. He's got a penis, but it's like, there's not much difference between him and a little girl his age, right?
Yeah.
So that develops until we biologically become men. So testosterone and growth hormone, we basically go through puberty. So biologically, our bodies are growing. We've got hair in our dicks, and we can get an erection, and we want to have sex. But there's no cultural transition. There's no psychological or cultural tradition that introduces us into manhood and then arms us with the experiences. And that's what I think is far more important than ideas. The experiences that are associated with becoming a man. And namely, that has to do with, in my opinion, courage. So, courage and commitment. So if you look at, I was watching a show on National Geographic not too long ago, and they were following around some traditional cultures in Africa, and one of the things that they would do with the boys at the age of about 10, anywhere between 10 and 12, and there was no specific age. They just kept an eye on the boy to see when he started asserting himself like a man, and they would say, he's ready, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they take this boy, and all of the men in the village would enact, and mind you, this boy has never seen this happen before, but all the grown men know that they're enacting this. They're putting on a performance. They'd enact a situation where they would burst into the home where the little boy was, right? And the mother was on board also, and pull the mother away, right? And two of the men would hold the mother, and she'd pretend to struggle. Oh, oh, oh. And the others would come, and they'd grab the boy and whisk him away from the mother. Now, the little boy doesn't know what the hell's going on. He's freaking out right now. The mom knows what's going on, and, the guys are all bumping shoulders. They're like, we got him. Let's take care of him. And they take him away. Now, that event is symbolic. That's a symbolic fucking event. You basically is a metaphor for severing the umbilical cord, right? It's a metaphor for that. It's like the men are stripping you away from your mother.
Mm-hmm. We call it cutting the apron strings over here.
Yes, cutting the apron strings. So the boy has no choice, and he's freaking the fuck out. He's probably about 10 years old, 11 years old, and he just asserted himself as a man somehow, somewhere. He said something or did something that triggered this response in the older men. And they would grab him, they'd whisk him away, and he'd freak out. And then they would, depending on the culture, there would be rites of passages. And they wouldn't allow him back into the culture and back into the tribe, or easily at least, until he passed these rites of passage. And so for some of them, it was, you've got to go kill a lion. Now imagine this, you were not allowed back, and I remember this one specifically. I think this was not Alan Watts, this was Joseph Campbell, talked about how you could come back, but don't even look at a girl. You can't mate. You can absolutely not have a girlfriend. You can't even think about reproducing until you've killed a lion. And if he even was trying to get friendly with girls, they would nope, you're not you, buddy. You didn't kill one. So an act of bravery, an act of courage was necessary for them to be accepted into the culture as a man. Other cultures would have them jump off of a high cliff where, they'd be hung by a bungee cord, just something to strip them away from their mothers, cut the umbilical cord or cut the apron strings, and then propel them to experience and develop the courage that's needed to be a man and a contributor to the society. We don't have that any longer.
Yeah, there's no actual challenges that we have to face. We're just picked by age rather than, sort of emotional maturity and so that's something I get quite a lot of nowadays. I get a lot of emails saying, I want to do this, I want to do that. Mm-hmm. My burning desire is to do X, Y, Z. But there's always something why, I've got a job that works too late, I've got kids, oh, I can't do that because I've got depression, I can't do that because, but you're a busy man, you've got the business, you've got the blog, you've got the amazing Elliott series, you've got families. How do you do it? What kick up the arse would you give to people who bullshit like that?
Well, this is going to go right over a lot of people's heads. They're going to hear it, they're going to nod, and they're going to say yes, but they're not going to get it because you don't get it until you do it. That's one of the things that I truly value, is that you don't know anything until you've experienced it. And there are people that will argue with me, but it's just a position that I've used and it's been resourceful for me. So the statement is, it's a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson where he says, do the thing and you will have the power. See, what's happened is we've become such a heady culture that we think about the thing. We think about what we're going to do. We talk about what we're going to do. We ask our friends or ask you, Ian, through your blog, what do I do? This is what I want to do. But they don't do anything because they think that talking about it and preparing, this is really the lie, this is the myth, preparing to do something is going to get them to be able to do it. Now, what Emerson's saying is, no. You're not going to prepare at all. You're going to do it, and then the power will be added to you. So you mentioned that I have a business. I don't know shit about owning a business. My dad never owned a business. I don't come from a lineage of entrepreneurs, and I never took any classes in business. I don't know shit about business. You know how I learned about business? I started a business. A lot of guys, they want to learn about starting a business, and they end up spending the next 5 years learning about starting a business. It's like, you son of a bitch, you need to grow the balls and have the courage to go and do the thing, and then the power will be added to you.
Yeah, it's like that. There's a internet Emmy going about just now where they show a picture of Michael Jackson. He took 300 game-winning shots, but he also missed 1,000 game-winning shots.
Right.
It's Walt Disney saying he tried to get his cartoon series going for the first, I think it was 5 or 6 times, failed every time. But if he stopped, and just said, that's it, he would have never got multi-million-dollar business.
No.
And this is the problem.
It's the fear of failure. You just said it. You're spot on. It's this fear of failure, like we're not supposed to fail, that keeps people away from doing things.
But the biggest thing I find is that people just spend all their time thinking. If you think, you're acting. They think they're making a bit of effort, they're doing something. It's always that first step's the hardest for me, but I find that with other people is they'd rather just stand there, talk about it. At least they think, they get this little boost of, oh well, I'm being motivational, I'm doing something. But like you say, if you don't take that first step, you're pretty much screwed from the get-go. So something I've often wondered, how do you remain so focused and positive? Is that, do you meditate? Do you read a lot? Is there, I've never seen you in a down mood. I've seen you aggressive about something and passionate, but I've never seen you properly pissed off. Is there something you do daily? Do you have a certain routine, a ritual?
It's not so much a thing that I do. It's more of a place that I'm coming from. It's a paradigm that I proceed from. And that basically is that this is all a game. I really don't take any of this very seriously at all. The good stuff and the bad stuff, I see it all as I'm detached. You see? So I never get too excited when things are going well. I'm like, hey, this is cool. This is great. Things are going awesome. But I don't get very attached to it because this is all the game, and the winds of chance are always at play. And when things go bad, I never get too down because it's like, this is all a game, and the winds of chance are always at hand or at play. So for me, it's more of a choice not to get too high or to go too low, and to tread sort of a middle path.
So what advice would you give to somebody who holds on to, bullshit ex-relationships, who, I'm a fighter, I'm an alcoholic, the guys who can't just let go and be in that moment. They've got to have their mind set on thousands of other little things, what's happening in their life or what's happened.
Well, this goes back to the original statement by Emerson. Do the thing and you will have the power. Now, the second part of that statement, the power often ends up becoming a pattern. It becomes a habit. So, for example, success in business, you do the thing, you have the power, which actually is a habit. In other words, it's ingrained in my nervous system to be successful at this thing because I now have the power. It works both ways. So when you do weak things, when you behave in a weak manner, when you harbor weak thoughts, you now own the power of weakness. So you get where I'm going with this?
I've done that quite a few times.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of these guys' problem is. It's not so much what they need to go do, it's what they need to undo. And it's a paradigm, it's a pattern within the nervous system that is programmed for weakness, for being a loser. The best way to break patterns, any pattern, and I'm using these terms, and the nervous system is just what it really, to me, is just so fascinating because it's our thoughts and it's our body. And the best way to break patterns of mind and body is to do something completely out of the ordinary. Do something completely different and uncomfortable.
So would that be the sort of thing where you do one thing that scares the shit out of you every single day?
That's it.
Ah.
One of the things, and you mentioned my depression video and some of the crazy shit that I do. What you see there when I do these things is called a pattern interrupt, right? So basically, I've used this term neurotic holding patterns, which basically means that our mind has created one of these avenues for losing, one of these weak avenues. It ingrains itself in our nervous system, right? So we become a fucking loser. You are what you do. You know what you. Emerson has another quote where he says, "What you do speaks so loud, I don't hear a word you're saying." You're doing it. You've taken on the character of a loser. When you act out, and you're doing this all in a very conscious and ego-grounded way, you're doing things that are out of the ordinary, that are somewhat uncomfortable, where there's cognitive dissonance. It's as simple as just closing your door and just throwing a temper tantrum, or hitting your bed with a pillow, or screaming, or just going nuts, just doing whatever comes up in your body, shaking and vibrating. It could be as simple as that. It could, and that is very, 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 very therapeutic. It's called bioenergetics. It's very therapeutic, life enhancing and changing. And I've experienced it myself, and I've seen it in other people. It could be that, which is very safe and closed. It's very contained. Or go quit your fucking job, dump your girlfriend. Go and pay off all your debt. Go and do something in life, which is a little bit, it's not as contained as what you're going to do in your bedroom with the door closed. But I tell you what, you go quit that girlfriend, you go quit that job, you go and get out of that bad situation just by walking out one day and stepping in the situation saying, I'm done. Guess what? You just broke the pattern, and now the opportunities abound. You have the opportunity now to go and do whatever you want. Scary, but effective.
Yeah, I'm thinking a few occasions in my own life that I should have done that, or things I'm going to do. Terrifying, but yeah, it's
It is terrifying. I tell young people this all the time, and this is why they're attracted to me, and this is why their parents probably think I'm a bad role model. If you're trying to figure out what you want to do, not sure what you want to do, and you've got, let's say, 3 options, and you look at each one of them, but there's one, you explore all of them, but there's one that when you look at it, you get a gut-wrenching feeling like, it just makes you really uncomfortable. Like you explore it and you're like, no way, I can't do it. It's just too out there. It's too uncomfortable. That's the one you should do. There it is. The minute I ask them these questions and they start exploring, and I see their face, like they do this when they reach this one, I don't even want to know what it is. That's it. There it is. That's the one, man. You've got to go and do that thing that is the scariest thing to you. Not because of what you're going to achieve by doing the thing, but because of who you're going to become by doing that thing.
I was afraid you were going to say that.